Charlie's story is a powerful reminder of why Medicaid is often described as the backbone of care for millions of families. His journey began in 2015 when he was born via a planned C-section. Just 6 days later, at his first pediatric checkup, doctors discovered he had hypothermia. Soon after, his parents learned that he had suspected bacterial meningitis. That meant a month in the hospital, and when they finally went home, they thought the worst was behind them. But it wasn't. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss more important stories like this one.
I'm going to share with you Charlie's story, which begins in 2015. He was my second child, and he was born via a planned C-section. It wasn't until his first pediatric checkup at 6 days old that we discovered that he had hypothermia, and eventually we would learn that he had suspected bacterial meningitis. He'd spend 30 days in the hospital, and when we were discharged, we left that hospital with a mantra of moving forward, thinking this was it. All of this stuff was behind us. But it wasn't. Charlie did not meet major developmental milestones, and soon he could not crawl, he could not swallow, he wouldn't roll over, and he did not speak. So I applied for Medicaid in June of 2018, and we waited. We waited 3 years, 8 months, and 6 days in order to receive services. During that time, our life was chaotic, and we lived in limbo. Charlie was not old enough to attend school, and no daycare would take him. So I became his full-time, unpaid care coordinator, case manager, advocate. I was his mom. Before Medicaid, every single year, we would hit our private insurance's out-of-pocket maximum. We could not afford his regular therapies, and we knew he desperately needed them. We would chase grants, write to nonprofits. We would just hope someone would help us get the equipment that we knew he needed, whether it be a gait trainer, a walker, or specialized feeding equipment. I don't know how, but somehow we made it work. We finally got Charlie a wheelchair. We got him that walker. We got therapy that didn't stop after 30 visits. 30 visits does not cover 4 months' worth of therapy for us. It is because of Medicaid, Charlie, who just recently began walking, is able to run across the playground and play with his friends. Charlie will soon be 10. He continues to have a pediatric feeding and swallowing disorder, and he still does not speak with words, but he knows how to spell his name. He knows his numbers 0 through 20. He knows his colors, and he's beginning to communicate with a communication device. He is making real progress, and that is a result of Medicaid. Medicaid is the backbone of the care that Charlie receives. Private insurance covers a combined 30 occupational and physical therapy visits a year. 30 visits, less than 4 months worth of care for just 2 therapies. What are we going to do the rest of this year? I'd be lying if I told you that I'm not scared. We're in the process of moving to the intellectual disability waiver, and we're absolutely terrified about what these federal funding cuts could mean for our family. If they go through, Charlie, he could lose everything, and we have fought for years to get these services. I've worked really hard as the president of the ARC of Iowa to share our story with elected officials. I've attended town halls with Senator Grassley. I couldn't get 5 minutes with him so that he would meet my son, so that he would know his name, Charles William Curtis, a boy who can now spell his name, who can walk, who's learning to feed himself, and all of this has been made possible because of Medicaid. When people talk about Medicaid being an entitlement, you'll have to forgive me, but I snark. I think, oh yes, I'm so entitled that I get to take my son to therapy 4 days a week. Or I'm so entitled that I get to spend sleepless nights going through stacks of paperwork, looking for bills and denials. The hoops that we get to jump through just so that I can give Charlie access to basic health care. When I hear that some of our elected officials are suggesting that we're all just going to die someday, and that I should stop being so concerned about these budget cuts, I'm filled with rage. They're asking me to ignore my son's very most basic well-being and needs. And as his mother, I can't do that. This should not be a political issue. This is a human issue. And I am here today to be the voice of Charlie and millions of children who cannot speak. We are willing to work with anyone, with any letter next to their name, across any aisle, who is willing to protect a program that has given my son not just the chance to survive, but to actually thrive.
As Charlie grew, his parents began to notice that he wasn't meeting major developmental milestones. He couldn't crawl, swallow, roll over, or speak. In 2018, his mother applied for Medicaid, but the family waited 3 years, 8 months, and 6 days to receive services. During that time, life was chaotic. He wasn't old enough for school, and no daycare would accept him. His mother became his full-time, unpaid caregiver, advocate, and case manager. Each year, the family hit their private insurance out-of-pocket maximum, and therapies were unaffordable. They turned to grants and nonprofits just to get basic equipment like a walker or feeding devices. If you value in-depth coverage of stories like Charlie's, hit subscribe to support this channel. When Medicaid finally came through, the difference was life-changing. Charlie, who once couldn't crawl, now walks across the playground and plays with his friends. At nearly 10 years old, he still faces challenges, including a pediatric feeding disorder and being nonverbal, but he's learning to communicate with a device, can spell his name, knows his numbers, and is making real progress. None of this would have been possible without Medicaid. By contrast, private insurance only covers 30 therapy visits per year. That's less than 4 months of care for just 2 types of therapy. The rest is left uncovered. If you want more stories that show the human impact behind policy debates, subscribe now and stay informed. The family is now moving to an intellectual disability waiver program, but proposed federal funding cuts threaten to undo years of progress. Charlie's mother, who also leads the ARC of Iowa, has spent years advocating for children like her son. She's even tried to get the attention of her senator to make sure lawmakers understand that this is not about politics, but about basic human needs. As she puts it, being told Medicaid is an entitlement feels insulting when it takes sleepless nights, endless paperwork, and constant appeals just to secure essential care for her child. If you believe these voices deserve to be heard, subscribe so you never miss stories that cut through the politics and show what's really at stake. At its core, this is not a partisan issue. It is a human issue. Charlie's story highlights how Medicaid doesn't just keep kids alive, it allows them to thrive. And the decisions made in Congress over the next few months could determine whether children like Charlie continue to progress or lose access to the care they need. For more reporting that puts real families at the center of national debates, make sure you are subscribed to the channel.